Hi, Lisa Schermerhorn here, and welcome to my podcast, Lisa's Mindset Podcast. And I am so excited to introduce you to my dear friend Kerryn Vaughan. And we met, oh my gosh, I don't even know how many years ago. I was a guest on her podcast,
Four?
Get Off the Bench. Is it 4 years now?
Yeah, 4 years ago. Yeah.
Wow. And we had so much fun on that podcast. Which we'll tell the story about later. But she's an amazing international speaker and an author. She's a leadership facilitator and a podcast host. And she has the most incredible energy, and she's so much fun to be around and very inspirational. And even though she's all the way in Australia, I just think it's so important for people around the world to really know who this woman is, because she's remarkable. And I know you're going to fall in love with her by the time we're done. Welcome.
Fantastic. Oh, thanks, Lisa. Now I've got to live up to that, don't I? At 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm gonna.
I know it. How is tomorrow already? What is that?
Yeah, because today's Friday for me, so yours is a Thursday. It's
We're Thursday night. It's
pretty good.
Dinner time here.
Yeah. Well, I'm here the next day, and the next day's looking pretty good. So you should be right.
Okay, good.
Well, thank you for having me. It's really, really good. 4 years. That's yeah. You were life-changing for me, Lisa. It's in 2020 when we met, because I know you're not going to touch on this story, but I will, just to start off the journey. I was having real difficulties with money, and my value, and it really was difficult for me to put my finger on, because I was like, I know I'm worth it. I'd never felt unworthy. I knew what I had to offer was worth money to people, was worth return on investment. But for some reason, I had conflict, and I reached out to Lisa through a mutual friend, Janet, and
Yes.
And we did no joke, we did about a 90-minute Zoom call where I think Lisa hypnotized me. I'm not sure, because I'm sure she started getting me to tell her all my deep, dark secrets. And, I did. It's not like me, but I did. Anyway, it turns out that my mother had a young sister who had a heart condition, and she was much younger than my mum. Mum went off to work in the city, and she came home one weekend. She used to come home and bring her toys from work, and she came home one weekend and she wasn't there. She said, "Where's Margaret?" And my grandmother said, "She's dead, and we're forgetting about her." And then the funeral came, and mum was 20 and she wasn't allowed to go to the funeral. And so, as it turns out, through epigenetics and that kind of thing, mum carried that opinion, that, or a belief that was unconscious, of course, that I have no place at the table, or that other people don't value what I have to say, or that kind of thing. And so then she gets pregnant with me, and I carry that for nearly 60 years, and could never put my finger on it. But when we sort of got to it, Lisa said, "What's coming up?" And I'm like, "Oh, my mum's little sister," which was so bizarre that it just came out of the blue. And I don't think it's unbelievable, because I know that woo-woo work is actually bloody works, and it's fantastic. And yeah, so that's what it turned out, and that's where the conflict was. I believed I had worth, but I also believed that other people didn't believe I had worth. Anyway, now I can charge the money I'm worth, and now I can actually go to it. So if anybody is listening to this and wonders what Lisa does, there you go. There's a bloody good example of what she does. So Lisa, you've changed my life, and
Wow.
our friendship is one thing, and what you've done for me is another, and the two combined make me give me a lot of respect and admiration for you. So we'll just start with that.
Wow.
How's that sound?
Now you're going to make me cry, and I'm not going to even be able to ask you any questions. So thank you so much.
That was my plan.
It's the love of my life is to be able to do and have those kind of results of what you just talked about. It's extraordinary. And what most people don't realize is that we inherit beliefs, that we can take on the beliefs, and it actually changes our DNA. And so when we go back and we release that, then you're free to be you. right? It's
Yep.
someone
Yep.
else's. It's someone else's beliefs. It's not even yours. So you came
Yep.
in, and so how do you find that that impacted you through your life before you even knew that, from the standpoint of childhood? And because you also had a
No,
sister that was sick too, right?
yeah, I had a foster sister, and she was 33 when she died of cancer, and I don't. Well, I'll never know if that was part of her belief system or her, her journey, that kind of thing. But I, I, I probably never really put myself. I did a lot of great things, that I would call great, and I followed my heart and was always true to my heart. But I never ever, when I talked about money or when I thought about money and people would charge $5,000 and stuff, I'd be like, who the hell's got that money? Like, who the hell, how does that even exist? It's a whole other world, and I was, I don't know. I can't say how it impacted me, but I think it was just a belief thing that I just, but because I said it was unconscious, I didn't actually know. Do you know? I think I never put I was always putting my voice forward in an angry kind of way, if that makes sense, trying to almost like force my voice to be heard, and even my next sister down, she says, we only started talking about this well, last year, and she said, all my life I was scared of you. She said, because you were so powerful with your voice, just so strong in your presence. While and so she was scared of me. But that's kind of like a double-edged sword, because I'm quite glad that I was very strong with my presence, because nobody
Right,
ever walked over me. I allowed myself to not get the results that I wanted to get. So
right.
yeah, I can't definitively describe it, but I can say now the difference is I will knock back work. I think actually, I think before I would say yes to everything because I wanted people to validate me or accept that I was good enough for something. Whereas now, no, if people want me to do something and I don't want to do it, I just say, no, that's doesn't align with my values, or it's not in my wheelhouse, and sometimes that means giving up $10,000 or more. That is, and
Well,
I'm actually,
that's an integrity thing, right? And
yeah.
this line just popped into my head to describe you. You're a force to be reckoned with boundaries.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm big on values. I'm big on, I tell people, when I'm working with leadership, that don't dare give up your non-negotiables. Don't dare let anybody pull you out of your integrity. Because we do it all the time. And
Right,
now that I'm not doing it, although I'm going to say not doing it, we all have defaults, and we all default back
right.
at times. So
Yeah.
nobody's perfect. I'm not going to pretend I am. So if anyone's listening to this going, oh my God, Kerryn's so perfect, I can assure you I am not. And the young adults in this house would tell you, no, no, she's not.
But when you talk about integrity, though, this is really interesting. There's a book by Dr. David Hawkins, The Power versus Force.
Yep,
And
yep,
in it, he has the map of consciousness. And
yep,
it's a ranking based on your own frequency. I'm not going to go into the science of it. We're
yep,
just going to believe that
yep.
the numbers are what they are. So enlightenment is like around 1,000, and shame is at 20. Love
Wow,
is at 500. Now, here's the
wow,
kicker. There was another group, the Spain Institute did a study and found that authenticity is 4,000 times the power of love.
wow,
So
wow.
right when you were talking about authenticity, because how many of us are terrified to really show up as we are,
Mm,
right? You could be a force to be reckoned with, but now it's coming from your soul. Now it's
yep,
coming from your heart, whereas before there was this frustration and fear of not being yourself, and it comes
yep,
from a different energy. It comes from a
yeah,
different place.
yep. Agree, 100% agree. It's funny, this is a little off track, but it's very right behind me. There's a thing hanging on the wall. You can hardly see it. That tiny little
Oh, yeah,
there,
yeah.
and it says, "Wisdom is knowing. Wisdom is knowing which path to take. Integrity is taking it." And I
Wow.
I say that a lot, and it's I didn't come up with that, but I say that a lot because it's kind of like, you know, when I'm working with leaders, they kind of go, yeah, I know what I have to do. And then I give them that quote and they're like, done. Okay, I'm doing it. Do you, you know, and it's a
I
really,
love that, because how many times do we hem and we haw and we have that fear?
yeah,
And this is why it's so important. I've had that fear because here's the thing with me is I started out in metaphysics, and I do with
yeah,
hypnosis, and the reason why I call myself a mindset coach is because I use all of these cutting edge techniques but also
yeah,
ancient techniques. And if I say the word hypnosis, it scares the heck out of people. I was at a ski mountain where they had a band. The town was having this big festival, and there was a band playing, and they closed off the street. And I was dancing with my friends, and there were these two cute guys next to me, and they started talking, and they said, "So, what do you do?" And I said, "Oh, I'm a hypnotist," and jumped up back 3 feet, and I thought they were gonna run, and wow, am I really that scary? And I had a situation, I lived near the Canadian border, and I was going up to Montreal to visit some friends, and I got to the border, and they randomly make you go inside to they'll question you. So my girlfriend and I got chosen to go inside to be questioned. And the officer said to me, "So what is it you do for a living?" And I was like, "I'm a hypnotist." He's like, "Are you hypnotizing me now?" And I said, I could be." He's like, "You can leave now. Both of you go."
that's fantastic.
It got me out of jury duty too.
I'm going to use that next time I get pulled up for speeding. Oh,
So,
that's
so it has
fantastic.
this double-edged sword because it haunted me for
Yeah,
so long that I
yeah,
had to hide that part of me.
yeah,
And then I was like, I want people to understand that there's this mythology around it, that people think that I'm going to control them. Are there unethical people who use
yeah.
neurolinguistic programming and a lot of these things? Yes. And
Mm,
that's where, and then people see these people on the stage and they see them
yeah,
making them quack like a duck and doing all these things. I don't even know how to do this.
yeah,
But, for me, it's that state of when people are between asleep and awake,
yeah,
and they're in complete control, and that's really
yeah.
important to me for people to understand that. But yeah, it's quite the road, and being authentic means to really face those fears and
Yep.
really step into it.
It really does. I remember in well, I will just say, absolutely validating what Lisa's saying about hypnosis, and the whole time she was hypnotizing me, I could have easily, I had the choice at every moment to say what I wanted to say. And I understand why people would have that fear, because it's like, well, we've all done bad things in the past. You know, we've all done things we're ashamed of. And it's like we worry that if a hypnotist gets to work with me, they're going to know all my deep dark secrets that I've never told anybody. But it really is not like that. If you're using someone who's got integrity like Lisa, because at every minute that she had me in that chair, I had the choice to speak up or not speak up, even though I was hypnotized. So I want to say that. And authenticity. I remember when it was about 15 years ago, or maybe more. And anyway, 2005. Oh shit, we're nearly 20 years. Gee, that's damn this getting old. Anyway, about 20 years ago. And I went and did my certificate to work with people with disabilities. Anyway, the teacher said to me, at the end of my course, I want you to come and teach with me, because the level of kindness that you've shown in all the role plays, that's what I want, working beside me. So I said, okay, that'd be great. And I never really had those strong value boundaries. Like, I didn't know them. Does that make sense? I never expressed them. I could never articulate them. It never even came to my mind to articulate that stuff. And we're walking over to the pub after class, because that's what we always did, went over and had a drink. And one of the girls in the class come up to me and she grabbed my arm. She said, I'm so glad you're going to be teaching next year, because you can help.
Whoops. Are you there? Shoot, you just froze.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when we're
Sorry, we froze.
That's right. So we're walking over to the pub. She grabbed my arm and she said, "I'm so glad you're teaching next year because you can help me cheat." And it came out of me like fire. And I said, "I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make a difference." And I'd never said that in my life. It
Wow.
literally when you say things out of your mouth, there's a feeling, but this had a visceral feeling. It just came from the depths of my soul. And I didn't even, how sometimes you say something and then you go, "Oh, I didn't mean it like that." You try and justify. Nothing. I was so bloody solid in that. It was like I slammed my Joan of Arc stake in the ground and said,
Wow.
"That's it." And I've used that hundreds of times since, and I will not. I want people to like me. That is the absolute truth. I do. But I don't need people to like me. And in that moment, that was a real turning point for me. It was like, I do not need people to like me. I want it because it's nicer and it's better. And I don't freaking need it. And my job on this planet is to make a difference. Now, having said that, at that moment, I had no idea what that meant. But like I didn't know how the hell I was
Oh my
making a
gosh,
difference.
I wish we lived closer. We would have so much fun
But it was so, yeah, anyway, so I've lived by that, and then I live by that now. And every time I did a session with a conference for a workplace a couple of days ago, and I say this all the time to my groups. I'm here to tell you what I know, and I'm here to share what I know, and I'm here to bloody help you. And if you can grab one thing from it, that's fantastic. Like if anything can change in your life because I've been up here, great. If 5 of you walk out here and say she's a complete dickhead, I have no idea what she's talking about. I'm completely okay with that, as long as one of you walked out of here and said, "Wow, that's life changing." So I don't, yeah, it was a big moment for me, real defining moment.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's huge to really stand in your power.
Yeah.
That's a big moment. So what got you into leadership? Like what was the defining moment that really made you decide like this is what I want to do? And I'd also like you to
Mm.
talk about the girls with hammers too. Because I thought that was literal. Like I thought you were literally teaching people women how to work construction. I'm sure you get
I
that all the
know.
time.
A lot of people think that I could. I live on a farm. I build all my sheds and everything, so I literally could. But no, it's metaphoric. So Girls and Hammers is metaphoric, and it's like building stronger women. Smashing down the stereotypes. Knocking down the barriers, all that kind of stuff. So I'll go back a little bit, and it's kind of like, and I'll keep it. I'll just try and keep it brief. You just interject whenever you like to ask a question. Otherwise, I'll ramble. But I was born, as I said, loud. My voice is it's my thing. And because I'm the type of personality I want to be on stage. That's my thing. So I wanted to be a rock star. And my next door neighbor used to play country guitar, and she used to yodel. And I said when I was 6, "Mum, I want a guitar." "Why do you want a guitar?" "I want to be like Edna." And she'd be like, "Yeah." And I think mum looked at me like, "Holy shit, we don't really want to see you yodeling in the house or attempting to." Well, she said, "When you're 7, you can have a guitar." So I did. Anyway, long story short, I ended up living this rock star life, and playing probably four gigs a week. It was at school in primary school. I got kicked out of the choir because I couldn't sing. I got kicked out of the school musical because I couldn't sing, and I probably couldn't sing like because I wasn't. I needed to be liked more, so I was more of a jokester, because I could make people laugh, and if I tried to do something perfectly, what if I failed? Then I wouldn't be the fun kid anymore. So maybe I didn't try. But anyway, I got kicked out of those two things, and I went on to sing. Now I have to tell you the story that I was in a band when I was 15. We had a girl singer, and the night before we had our very first gig in a pub, she quit, and the boys looked at me and said, "Well, then you've got to sing." And I said, "I can't sing." And they're like, "You're a girl." And I said, "Just because I'm a girl doesn't mean I can sing." Anyway, so we went to the gig, and Dad's got his station wagon, and he's taken we're loaded up with our drums and amps. Anyway, we set up and started playing, and I was singing. It was awful. I'll admit it was awful. People were throwing money at us, and it wasn't because we were good. It was like, if I give you some money, will you piss off? Anyway, but over time, and this is what I talk about in my leadership. It's called Confident Leaders, is the program I run. And I say about confidence is that you've got to take courageous action, and you've got to keep practicing. You'll never get confident if you don't keep practicing. So practicing and practicing, and I became a singer. I'm proud of like what I have achieved with music, because one of my songs called Broken, it's from the perspective of an animal in a experimental lab. I can't stand animal experiment. I can't stand animal cruelty, but animal experimentation is one of those things that it's just the worst for me. So I wrote this song called Broken, and it was from the point of view of an animal in a lab, feeling completely broken. And that song has been played and is featured on so many animal rights websites around the world. And I've never asked for a cent for it. It's just like, use it, go for your life, and really bloody proud of that. But so anyway, I was living this rock star life and thought I was the bee's knees, getting all the attention, because that was the big thing, like all this approval. And I remember playing at a gig, and my middle sister, there was 5 girls in our family. I'm the oldest, and the middle sister rang me and said, our next sister down, the 4th one, has got cancer. And I was really only saw death. Do you know what? It was a real punch in the heart. Bloody hell, the next song I flipped was Knocking on Heaven's Door. As soon as I got up, and oh my God, I actually sang it. I don't know how, but I was just, she was going to die and blah, blah, blah. I didn't even see like C for cure or anything, or H for hope, nothing. D for death was all I saw. And as it turned out, we went on a 5-year journey. I was the oldest. I tried to save her. I took her to Hawaii, and because she wanted to go, next thing she had a brain hemorrhage on the plane, and she had to have emergency life-saving surgery in Hawaii. The doctor, the specialist, said she's not going to get back to Australia. The whole family flew over. Then it was kind of like making these decisions, and because I was over there on my own, making the decision. Does she have surgery? Does she not? What do we do? It's really awful time. And so then there was kind of like, I'm not putting my sister in a box and flying her home on a plane. And it was just really awful. But it turns out the specialist had a what do you call it? A radiologist friend. And he come to us and he said, I can, if you want her to go, because she wanted to get back to Australia.
Right.
And he said, I've got one option, and it's not pretty. I can, because she had brain tumors all through her brain once they opened her up, just stitched her back up again. And he said, I can fry her brain, and that might get her back to Australia, but it will give her brain damage. But the other option, she was going to die in Hawaii within a matter of weeks anyway. Do you know? So yeah, it was really, really. So we took that chance, and I remember flying home with her, and we're on the plane, and we because the Australian Embassy helped us out, we were in business class, and so it was a much nicer, a bit more roomy for her and a bit more attention. And she said to me about halfway there, "Oh, Kerryn, can you see that angel? Oh, he's so beautiful." And I'm like, "Oh no. Oh dear God, this is," and mum and dad, and we're in the back in economy. And anyway, and she said, "He's so big, he's so blue." And then I went, "Oh God, it's Archangel Michael. We're all going down."
So he's there to protect you.
Yeah. But and I thought, she's going to die. Like, they've come to take her. Whether you believe in angels or not,
Right.
I don't care what other people believe in. I believe that there's something, and it's probably true. We'll never know till we die. But you know what? You got to have faith in something. And next thing she says, "Oh, I've got diarrhea." And I'm like, "Oh shit." And so there's they call over the thing, "Is there any doctors on board?" And mum and dad are in the back panicking, and it was just horrible.
Wow.
And we get to Sydney. I said, "Right, you're getting off. You're going straight to a hospital." "No, I'm not. I'm going home to Warragul." So she was still stubborn, and she was still cohesive, but like wasn't there, if that makes sense. it doesn't sound like that makes
Right,
sense, but
right.
anyway. And then we get to Melbourne, and I said, right, you're going to hospital? No, I'm not going to Warragul. You know what? She made it. She made it to Warragul. She was greeted at the hospital with all these balloons and caps, and they had a big fundraising effort, raised over $1 million. It was just,
Wow.
it was absolutely bloody amazing. But anyway, all of that, she ended up dying. This is a funny thing, you know, on the 31st of January, 20, 2002, 2003, I went into her bedroom and said, I changed, well, I wasn't that date, but I changed, wait, it was a few days before, and I changed those blocks, you know, those calendar blocks that make a day. I changed it to the 31st of January, 2002. And I said to her, that's the last day you're going to suffer. And what I meant by that is, you're going to get better. And she died on the 1st of the 2nd. She died the very next day. And so it's like, shit, how much of that, you know, matters? But so she hung on until the little girl who was 4 did her first day at school, and she comes, mummy, I went to school, you know, and then she died. She died that the next day. But it was so that kind of put me on a, you know what, back then I was still kind of worried about what people thought of me. I didn't want to seem weak. I didn't want to cry. I didn't want to show grief. Does that make sense? Yeah, I was the
Of
strongest in the
course.
family. I thought it was my job to save her. I failed. This is all not true, but this
It's
is
your
my
story,
book.
right? It's your
Yeah,
story.
yeah. So I didn't save her, so I was like a failure. You know, I don't know. It was just I, I don't know what I felt. You know, it was just kind of this mix of having to stay upright. And so I ended up working in a nursery, and it's different for you in America. You call nurseries like baby care centers, but for us, a nursery is a plant center. You know, where they sell plants
Oh,
and
we have that too. We
things.
have
Oh, you
words.
do?
Yeah. So the plants are nursery, and also for preschool is their nursery.
Oh, well, I went to work in a plant nursery because I thought, you know, I can hide behind the plants and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, the town had a different idea for me, and the Relay for Life. I don't know if you have that over there, but it's like a cancer council fundraiser. You know, it goes overnight. A few people in the town asked me do you want to come and do this? And then they said, do you know anything? The woman from the Cancer Council said, do you know anything about entertainment? I said, yeah, I've been entertaining for years and years. And so she said, do you want to take on that coordinator role? And I said, oh, yeah. And then they didn't have anyone for activities. And I said, I'll do that role as well. And then they didn't have anyone for ceremonies. And I said, well, I'll do that role as well. I don't know why. Maybe it was just my way of, oh, I can prove to you all I can do it, you know. Anyway, I was hugely successful, and I started getting praise. Now, I wasn't in it for praise, but I started getting praise for doing good. Does that make, not about me? It was for
Right.
greater than me. And I really saw this, I really saw what power I had, you know, to make a difference in people's lives. I don't think I saw that before. And then I went on this 11-year search. How do I make how do I feel good? What do I want to do in life? And I ended up teaching disability, as I said before, and I ended up becoming a behavior and autism specialist. And I'd go into schools, and a lot of teachers would say, fix these kids. And I used to get real cranky because I used to think it's not the kids, it's a system, you know, it's the environment. You don't understand them. And so I ended up writing a book called Magnificent Kids. Now, it's not about kids with autism, but it really got a bee in my bonnet about how we overlook kids and how incredible their view is. They don't have the limitations that we have. You know, they say they want to do something, they just want to do it, and they can't see why it can't happen. But it's us adults who say, oh, no, not yet. Wait till you're grown up. No, that's too hard. That costs too much money, Bob. We just keep putting these lids on these kids. And so I wrote this book, Magnificent Kids, 23 superheroes who are changing the world. And you know what? They were under 18, and they were doing world-changing projects.
Wow.
And some of them, most of
That's
them are still doing amazing stuff. Janet Hogan, you know, who we talked about before, her daughter Clover, she's running Force for Nature, which is one of the biggest climate change activist companies
Wow.
in the world. You know,
Wow.
she takes on those big bastards, BHP, and
That's amazing. And I will tell you,
it is.
I saw something recently where they did a study with children, and they said that like 3 and 4 and 5-year-olds all had the level of brilliance.
Yeah.
They were all at the level of brilliance. By the
Yep.
time they graduated high school, only
Mm.
30% were considered brilliant.
Yeah.
That the system squashes the way that we think. And my understanding is the way our schools were formed was to be workers.
Yep.
Rockefeller
Yep. That's right.
Rockefeller started
Industrial.
our school system, and it's like we were taught to follow orders.
Yep.
We answer questions to see what the teacher wants, not to question. We're not allowed to question. We're
Yep.
not allowed to wrestle with answers. And I've had 2 people tell me that they had the answer, like their math teachers, both cases, put a formula on the board and they corrected their math teacher. And I know in Australia you say maths.
Yeah. Yeah.
Their
Yeah.
maths
Yeah.
teacher. Um, and they were sent to the principals for being wise
Wow.
asses. And I thought, wow, how proud I would be. It's like, oh wow, you corrected me and you're that much younger. Wow, show us how you got that.
Yeah.
But we
Oh, the
don't do
same.
that.
No, that happened to me. I used to be brilliant. Well, I still am good at maths, but I was brilliant at maths, and probably that's the musical mind as well. And I used to be able to do 10-page formulas without stopping, to go, 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 just brilliant. But I struggled with arithmetic, maybe because it was too boring. But the teacher would always say, "How did you get that answer?" And I'd show him or her, and they would say, "No, that's not the way we do it." And I'd say, "But is that the right answer?" And they'd say, "Yes, but that's not the way we get to it. That's not the process."
Right.
And that used to frustrate the shit out of me. And because I could knock a 10-page formula down to 2 pages, and I was, oh, why wouldn't I? But no, that's not how you do it. You do it the long way. And anyway, regardless. Yeah, so this book, and some of them were 7 and 8, and they were taking on the Vietnamese government, sending hair from a hair salon to the Chinese government, saying, why are you killing rhinos for the horns? Because it's fingernails and hair. So here's a box full of fingernail and hair. Fingernails and hair. They were arrested at a protest when they were 10, over a black rhino protest. And these are kids that, I mean, I'm still good friends with a lot of them, and it's kind of, now they're all adults, but it what it made me do, I didn't write that book until I was 50. So it took me 11 years after my sister died to figure out what the hell to do. And I was doing good stuff with disability, but then I realized I wrote that book at 50, and I thought, what the hell's wrong with me? And I was proud of writing this book, but I was like, these kids, look what they're doing in their kids, and you're 50, you've got all these years on them, and why the hell aren't you? I wasn't beating myself up, but I was this real awakening, like, far out. We're all so brilliant, as you say. Let's access that. So anyway, that led to, and it was, nothing I've done really was, well, I don't know. I don't think nothing I've done's really been planned. It's all come out of something else has led to something. And anyway, then I had my book launch, and I was showing my book, and a guy in Africa saw my book. Where can I get that book? And I said, I'll send you one. And he said, I want to start a magnificent class. And I said, that's fantastic. Do it. And then I jumped in, and he said, do you want to Skype with our kids? And I said, yeah. And then I said, one better. Why don't I get some of the kids in the book to Skype with your class? Yeah, that would be great. And then I went even more, and I said, what about I get a class in Australia to Skype with your class in Africa, which was in oh God, oh my God, Guinea, and is it Guinea? Yeah, it is Guinea. And it was kind of, he said, then I don't have a laptop. And I'm like, oh shit. I didn't even think. And this is another thing too. I'm not very good at that. I jump in, and then I have to do all the fixing later. But I said on Facebook, has anyone got a laptop? I need to send one to Africa. And next thing I've got 30, like 30 laptops. And I'm like, what the hell am I going to do with 30 laptops? And then I thought, and this is the brain, and this is what I want to sort of say to people is we're going to make mistakes, but keep moving forward towards your goal. So I thought, well, I've got 30 laptops, I better start a business, and I'll get other schools involved, and I'll send 30 laptops, and I'll get 30 schools here and 30 schools over there, and all that. So thinking it was that easy. I went to send the laptops, and Australia Post said, nah, no, can't send lithium batteries through the post. That's not going to happen. And if I wanted to send them by ship, it was going to be $600 a laptop to send. And it was like, I can't do that. I can't do it. Anyway, finally, I did get them shipped over on Lions Club. I think you have Lions Clubs over there. You do, yeah. And they had, oh no, Rotary. It was Rotary.
Rotary.
And
Okay.
yeah, through a shipping container, that they were sending to Kenya. Right. They went to Kenya. Then the person that was going to take them into Uganda said, "I'm not going to do it because I'm going to get shot." And I'm like, "Why are you going to get shot?" And then they tell me then that the government over there wants to keep people in poverty. They're not allowed to have secondhand things. If they find them, they'll burn them. They'll shoot the person. Blah blah blah. So anyway, we ended up finding someone. Well, I won't go into that story, but someone took them through for us, and we get them into Uganda. And it was then that I realized, shit, we're on different time zones. The kids are in school in Australia, but they're in bed in Africa, and they're never going to be able to Zoom, right? So I buggered that up. I also buggered up that I sent laptops to a country, 95% of them don't even have power. So they've got
Or
these
Wi-Fi.
yeah, exactly. So they had to, well, they do get Wi-Fi, but still it costs a lot of money to get little
Right.
dongles and stuff like that. So they had to drive them into the market or whatever it is to trickle feed them. So they got this really dangerous one pole with power with 3,000 adapters hanging out of it, and everyone's standing there trickle feeding their phones and laptops and what have you. But it takes 24 hours to trickle feed, and they've got to stand there, so they're not in class while they're standing there trickle feeding, and a disaster. And so we realized that shit, they need solar systems. So we started putting in solar systems into some of the schools, and that actually was better than we thought, because
Wow.
The girls over there, if they don't so primary school goes to P7, and then they go to secondary. And if they don't pass P7, they get married off. They can't go to secondary school. So putting in the solar systems meant that the girls could stay at school and stay there for 2 weeks at exam time and studied, and actually
Wow.
pass to get into. Yeah, there's so much stuff. And then we realized that the girls are going to fetch the water, so they're missing out on school, therefore they can't pass, therefore they get married off. And when I say married off, they're not getting married off to a spunky 15-year-old, and they're figuring life out. It's a 40-50-year-old man who's utterly brutal to them. And so then we started putting in water tanks in schools and connecting clean water to villages and putting in water wells and that kind of stuff. Now, with all the, and we had a school sponsorship program. I've just closing the not-for-profit down after 8 years because of just a lot of difficulties, and that came with a lot of conflict in my mind. Am I letting people down and what have you?
Right.
But I just have to focus on what we did in 8 years, and say, well,
That's
we made
a remarkable story. And I have a friend who does something like that in Zimbabwe, where she went into schools because the girls get married off when they
yeah,
hit their puberty, and they don't have any money, so they don't have any money for sanitary products. And so these
yeah,
girls have to be home for a week every month. And
yeah.
there was one
Sitting
girl,
sitting over a hole, sitting
yes,
over a hole.
yes.
Yes. Mm,
So what she did was she founded an organization so that they would make these cloth underwear with inserts. And now she's
yep,
teaching them because to get the fabric and to get, everything. So she got sewing machines in there and teaching them to make them
yep,
so that they can
yes,
also have a business. And I
yep,
sponsored a girl. There was one girl who was walking 20 miles each way to school.
yep,
So they got her a bicycle. For $200,
yep,
it changed this girl's life. For
yep,
$200, this girl could now ride her bike back and forth to school and not get home at midnight, do her homework, wake up at 4 in the morning and turn around and do it again.
Yeah. And doing the homework to kerosene lamps,
Yeah.
that were causing health issues. And yeah, we also had a sanitary pad system in Kenya, and we supplied you know, sewing machines, and she was teaching girls, and she would get girls from female genital mutilation situations and get them to make. Yeah, it's utterly amazing. And on the way, when you're talking about that, on the way to the water hole, a lot of the girls would walk, like you say, 20 miles, long way to the water hole, which is a stagnant pond full of bugs and worms and men's urine,
Yeah.
pig feces, and you got no idea. This water, bloody disgusting. But along the way, men would wait, the boda drivers, which is like the motorbike taxis, and they would sexually assault them and rape them. And even kids as young as 3, girls as young as 3, like they would be sent to get water, and the teenagers would be swapping sex for sanitary items, so that they could stay in school. And
Wow.
absolutely terrible. So anyway, so that was one thing, and then I kind of got down on got on the girl path, like, wow, why are girls treated like this? Do you know why? Because I'd never experienced this, because my forced brutality, it's like no guy would ever try and challenge me, because I'd take him down, kick him in the balls, and down he would go. But so it kind of didn't really occur to me that maybe it was blind, maybe it was stupidity, I don't know, or ignorance, but it didn't occur to me that there was so much shit going on for girls, all around the world. I just never bought into it. I don't know. But anyway, maybe selfishness, but made me start thinking about the girls here too in Australia, and how I worked, taught VCAL, which is kind of like when you come out of high school, it's at the end of high school, you can do VCE, which is like for doctors, lawyers, going to university stream. And then there's
Right.
VCAL, and that was like going into the trades
Right.
stream. And so I used to teach VCAL kids, and they would be taking pictures of their boobs, like holding the phone up, pulling their shirt out, take pictures of their boobs, taking naked pictures, sending them to boys, that sort of stuff. Then there'd be a heartbreak. We'd have the sobbing going on for days because he shared it with someone. I was like, stop doing it? Like, why are you doing this? Because otherwise, he told me to, and I want him to like me. And I'm like, oh, for God's sake. And it used to drive me nuts. And then, so I'd done the couple of things, and then I was sitting at the front of a workman shop, with tools and work clothes and flannelette shirts, and I love flannelette shirts. And I said to my partner, Nikki, I'm going to start something called Girls with Hammers. And I'm going to teach girls that they can be anything they bloody want to be, and stop taking these selfies and stop sexualizing themselves. Just stand up and be bloody anything they want, but take their power back. Anyway, so I didn't do anything about it, but I was at an International Women's Day thing, and I was coaching a table, and there was this card there, and I've got it hanging up on my wall here. I will launch a purposeful female-focused initiative. I got up on stage in front of 300 women, waving this card around. They're all cheering. I got down off the stage and went, oh, shit, now I've got to do it. So I came home and told Nikki, and she said, well, start Girls with Hammers. I said, well, if I'm starting it, you're coming with me. So let's do this together. And I went into a couple of schools and trying to empower them, and they were seriously looking at me like, who the fuck's this old nana coming in telling us what to do? Like, you're an old fart, like, no, thank you, we'll do it our way. And I thought, shit, this just isn't going to work. So we did a conference, and we attracted 45 to 65-year-old women, but there were others. But what we realized is they were seeking connection. They'd kind of, the kids were grown up, the husband, she didn't have to, cook his, all the stuff, baby him like one of the kids anymore. Sort of like, make your own baked beans on toast, piss off, make your own coffee, that sort of thing. And they're at this point where, like, I don't know who I am anymore, so they coming to the conference. And so it's metaphoric, it's about, let's build stronger women, let's smash down the stereotypes. So we did this conference, and we've done it for six years now. But because of what I was doing, I started getting asked to speak at conferences, and share the stories and that kind of stuff. And I was at one conference, just a local one, and the guy, who's a good friend of mine, said to me, "Do you want to run a workshop?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what on?" And he said, "Kickstarting projects." I'm like, well, "What are you asking me to do that for?" And he's just like, "Hey, are you for real?" Anyway, so I did, and I called it "Get Off the Bench." And we only had an hour, and as I was going through stuff, I'm like, oh God, there's not enough time. I've got to tell you about, oh, geez, I didn't think to tell you about money. Oh, what about funding? Oh God, and what if this happens? And then I said, you know what, there's not enough time. I'm going to give me your email, and it's not a marketing ploy, but give me your email, and I'll go home and write up a PDF. I'll send you a lot more information. And so I went home, and a couple of days later started on it. And next thing I'm like, I've got a book. This is this is a whole book. And so now that I've done Magnificent Kids, I'm like, I know how to make a book. So then I just turned it into a book. And while I look back at it now and go, oh God, there's a few things I could have said better or could have changed. I wrote that book in 4 to 6 weeks, and banged it out,
Wow.
sent it out. And so many people have said to me that book was the turning point for them starting a project. So I kind of think, why should I go back and change it? I'm not going to go backwards. And so then, yeah, Get Off the Bench kind of became my thing. But what I found is that the people who wanted to get off the bench didn't have the money, so they couldn't afford to get off the bench, couldn't afford to pay me, to be mentoring them, and it was just kind of like wasn't quite enough to sustain me. But then I started the podcast, and I wanted to start the podcast, and I'm talking a lot. Do you need to interject, or you want
No,
me to
I
shut
was
up?
just, well, what I was going to say is that's how we met, was doing your podcast, which was
Yeah.
actually a funny story. We were talking, laughing about this beforehand, but um, because of the time difference, we were doing, I think it was like 8 o'clock at night. And normally this would never happen, but I had someone who was coming to help clean my house. And normally she comes during the day, but she had an emergency and said, "Can I come tonight instead?" And I said, "Absolutely. But the condition is I'm on a podcast halfway around the world to Australia. I need it to be quiet." Now, I live in a log home on the side of a mountain, and the bathroom in my bedroom is a pressure toilet that sounds like earth moving equipment when you flush it.
Sounds like a jet airliner.
It
Yeah,
does. It sounds like a jet. It scares me sometimes. Oh, so I'm in the middle of this podcast, and I had asked her to be quiet. And not only did she flush once, she kept flushing. And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And then Kerryn's like, "Is someone flushing a toilet there?" I'm like, "Oh." And it was in the middle of the podcast, and then we just kind of went with it and laughed, and it was all about going with the flow. And you have
yeah,
to laugh, and you have to just have this open, growth mindset of just letting things happen and laughing about it. And it was
yeah.
it was one of my favorite podcasts I've ever done because of that.
It was fantastic. Now, Lisa, I'm just going to tell you, you might have knocked your microphone there because it kind of went a little bit quiet. Did you knock
Oh,
your mic?
no, can
No.
you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better. That's better.
Okay,
Because
I
we don't.
probably got loud. It probably
That's
got me
better.
off.
We don't want the listeners missing out on your stories. That was fantastic. God, that was funny. That was hilarious. So with this, no, I'm not going to stop laughing. So with this podcast, yeah, I wanted to. I really wanted to get it going. I said, I'm going to do a podcast. Bugger it. I don't know what that means, but I'm just going to do it. And I just about to launch it on the first of. I was. I love my dates. I always get tattoos on particular dates, and I just love dates. And so the 1st of January 2020, I'm like, I'm going to launch my podcast. And my sister, my youngest sister, on the 22nd of December, so 9 days earlier, had a cardiac arrest. And it was like, oh, God damn her. Now I can't do my pod. No, I'm joking. No. So she had this cardiac arrest. I was kind of like, well, screw the podcast. I gotta worry about this. And she actually survived. She had 2 hours it took paramedics and the MICA unit to get her back and to stable, they put her in a coma, and it took 2 hours to revive her or whatever. Anyway, so that was the hospital saying she's she's might die, of course, because hardly anyone makes it out of a cardiac arrest, particularly if it's taken that long to stabilize them and to bring them back and what have you. And they said, and if she does survive, she'll have really bad brain damage. But you know what? She survived, and she doesn't have brain damage. And they said, we reckon it's because she's a Pilates instructor that her body was so I don't know.
Well, she was
Yeah,
toned in shape and,
yeah,
had good
so good.
flow, probably a good
Yep.
blood flow. Yeah.
Yeah. So it really was good for her. Anyway, she survived, so that's a bloody good thing. But and then we had bushfires right on New Year's Eve up here. And while they were about 50 k's from my home, we all know that a bushfire that's an hour once the wind catches it,
Right.
and it's really close. But it wasn't just that. It wasn't just me worrying about my place. It was like we had millions of hectares burning. Half of Victoria, the whole state was on fire, and um, it was awful. The Navy had to come and rescue people off the beach, and it was but millions of animals were caught in, koalas, and it was just
I think I
that was
remember
where,
that in the news because they were
yeah,
showing koalas that were burned and they were
yeah.
rescuing them.
Yeah, and it was well, they're the ones they rescued. That
Yeah.
we lost millions of animals, and kangaroos, koalas, the goannas, snakes. You might not like snakes, but they're part of our ecosystem. Possums, birds, like all gone, and that really cut me. That being a big animal advocate, and so then I applied for an animal rescue welfare service to go and rescue koalas. Like I wanted to do something. I wanted to do something, and they come back no. And so then I took that as a personal rejection, and we tried to offer clothes to the rescue shelters where all the people were. No, we don't need any more. We're full. So it was kind of like when you're really desperate to be, you want to help, but you don't know what to do. So you try to do what you can do, and then that gets kicked in the teeth, and you take it
Right.
personally. I did, and it's like, oh, I'm worth nothing. Like I'm a failure. I'm hopeless. I'm helpless. Like no one wants me. It was those kind of
Wow.
shitty feelings that were coming up, and um, really impacted me badly. And then COVID, then fucking COVID. I was going to New York to speak at Times Square, and I thought that's good because that'll give me my uh, validation back. That's a good thing. Times Square, wow, what a place for a speaker to speak.
Right.
I'll be me again. No, COVID hit. I nearly said, I said to my partner, let's go anyway. Let's go. God, I'm glad we didn't go. But anyway, and then I just thought, that's it. I'm starting my podcast. Don't care. I'm just doing it because if I have to get up every single week, if I have to show up every single week, that's the very best thing I can do over COVID to not get me into. I've never suffered depression, but I could see how easy it would be, to stay in bed and just
Right.
say fuck the world, that kind of stuff. So doing the podcast, I just had to show up. So it's been yeah, it's been amazing. And then I came to Janet. Then I saw Janet. I was still like, I don't know what to do. And then I saw Janet's thing, and I went and did a 5 doors thing program with her. She talked about you. I came to you. Next thing, everything just opened for me, and I'm like, what? Why the hell? Why the hell aren't I doing what I'm good at? I'm good at on stage. I'm good at in front of people. I'm good at teaching. I've got my values sorted out. I know what leadership is because I've led all these community projects. And then I started working in leadership programs, and then I'm like, I'm starting my own. Bugger that, because there's things I want to say, and I don't want to go by the script. There's things I want to say, and there's things I want to do, and I want people to come out believing in themselves. And I don't talk about management. I don't talk about all that crap, because if you don't know your management job, you shouldn't be in your role. But who are you as a person? Because most managers are in there with their masks on, and they're not being leaders. They're kind of like, oh, I don't want to upset anyone. I don't want to say, oh, but I don't know what to say if it's a difficult conversation. I'm like, rip that fucking mask off. Let's go. Who's there? Who's behind there? Who is this person?
Show
And
up.
people will People will love you for being authentic and kind and caring and being vulnerable and raw. And so that's the stuff that I teach now. It's kind of like, I don't want people like, I don't want people like, I'm not going to say I suffered, but I know I wasn't showing up, in
Right.
previously,
I have a
and
powerful exercise for you for your workshop that was done with me.
okay,
And one of my mentor handed me and two other people a grapefruit. And well, first they had everyone else leave. There were about 25 of us. So he selected a few of us, handed us a grapefruit while the other
yeah,
people were gone. And they said, when they come back, you need to hold this grapefruit in your hand and hide it. You can't let anyone see your grapefruit. So as if you're in a cocktail party, and you have your back up against the wall with your hand behind your back, and these people coming in have no idea what's going on. So about 5 minutes go by and I'm exhausted because I'm trying to hide the grapefruit. So they then told everyone what happened, what the purpose, and they said, how much were you able to listen to the other person you were
yep,
talking to? Zero. How
yep,
much were you worried about someone finding your grapefruit? Pretty much the whole thing. That's what having a mask does. When you
yeah, that's
have a
good.
mask, you're so worried about what other people think. You're busy hiding who you are. You can't focus. You can't concentrate. You cannot hear the other person and you cannot be present. And I have
Wow.
never forgotten that exercise.
Wow, I'm doing it. I'm going to do it. I am
Yeah, you got to
absolutely.
let me know
You know
how it
what?
goes. But
They
yeah, it
will
was
love it.
amazing.
Yeah, that's
It was
fantastic. Right,
amazing.
I'm doing
Yeah.
it.
Go. Yes,
So
you go,
so
girl.
I'm going to do it. So Lisa, we have landed at my present moment.
Yes. Well, you know what? I know that there are people in Australia that'll probably hear this, and there are people in the US. So most of the work that you do, that's in person. You don't do any of this online, correct?
Quite a few people
Yet.
currently, yet currently
Yet.
it's in person, locally where I live, and because I run a public one, so that is people from any organization can come and join, but they have to register. They can't just join at any random time. Like, it's a proper set 6-month program, and I just started that one about a month ago, and I also run it with organizations. So if they've got anything between 10 and 20 leaders, they all come together for 6 months and run it with them. So, and that's mostly local, although that doesn't have to be local, because I will go wherever for that, but not to America every month, because I have 7 face-to-face ones. But many people have asked me, do you do this online? I would love to do this online, and I want to, and I will. I just haven't had the space, to go, well, how can
Right.
I make that, um how can I make it as impactful? Because I can't have people sitting 6 hours at a time on Zoom.
You could be surprised how impactful Zoom can be, number one, because you are that inspirational and the way you speak, you draw people in. If anyone could do it, you could do it. And I had
Oh,
someone
thank you.
who did a weekend boot camp on how to write a book. And I thought, 3 days of this? I'm like, I'm never going to be able to sit.
Yeah,
He had 100 people engaged for 3 days. I kept checking the Zoom and I'm like, holy smokes, they're all still here. Because he made it really intriguing and engaging and exciting, and gave people exercises, time for people to mingle and
yeah.
meet online. So it can be done. Just giving you the inspiration at some point.
Oh,
But if
I'm
anyone
saying,
wants your books or any information about you and want to know how, they might be able to kickstart something, or,
yeah,
inspiration about any of the nonprofit, like my friend, uh, oh my gosh, it just drew blank. Her Julie, who does the So Portive Friends, out of Zimbabwe, and she's been in Uganda. Maybe
yeah,
she can pick up some of the work that you have done.
yeah.
Um, so,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I did forget to tell you one more thing, and I can't. Let me see if I can get it. Oh, this is a draft one from Amazon, but I just did 100 days of gratitude journal as well.
oh,
And you
perfect.
know what I did? I did it for my confident leaders group, And I thought, no, because we talk about self-care near the end, and fuck, I want them to get doing it now at the start, and I want them to do 100 days of graduate, and then I want to see what the difference is. And so I just decided I'll bang it together. Then I'm like, oh, well, I might as well put on Amazon. So that's on Amazon as well. So
Wow.
if anybody wants, any of the books, like there's 3 of them. So there's Magnificent Kids Get Off the Bench and that journal, and they're all on Amazon.
Okay, so
And
I'll get the links from you and I'll post them below. And it's interesting about self-care. It's amazing to me how few people, how many people don't know how to take care of themselves. Just
yeah,
especially girls who have been abused, people who have been
mm,
abused don't
yeah,
know have hygiene practices. They don't
yeah,
understand how to take care of themselves, and it's a
yeah,
worthiness thing. So that's
mm,
really, really important. And I remember during COVID, all my friends didn't shower and stayed in their pajamas and their sweats for a week. And
yeah,
I'm like, and I literally did this to keep my sanity. I woke up, took a
yeah.
shower, put makeup on, put my clothes on, and then sat on the couch and watched TV. But I needed to get up, or I would walk. I actually live in the mountains and I walked for hours, sometimes 10 miles a day. But I needed to give myself a purpose every day. I
Yeah,
needed to get up
yeah,
and move. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I agree. We live on 11 acres, like on a little farm, so with rescue cows and rescue donkeys, and so
Oh.
we didn't bother us too much because we had the whole farm. Didn't we could get out there and do stacks of stuff, but yeah, it's yeah. And I was going to say, you're probably going to ask me, but I'm going. If people check out my website, there's also other stuff on there. But if they're going to buy any books, get them from Amazon because it's way cheaper to do that than to be shipping them off. But yeah, so it's just KerrynVaughan.com.
All right. Well, I will put that out. I'll get all your information. And again, always a pleasure. Great laughter and fun. As you can see, she's a lot of fun to be with. And really, truly inspirational. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I look forward to connecting with you again. And please stay
Thank
on,
you.
and I'll get some information from you, and we'll stop the recording.